Which I feel like I've known people who are like who are smart, good, creative people who discover this formula and like take the call to action of like, I could do that. Or like romance novels are very famously like, on this page this happens, on this page this happens, and that is like, they are, especially in high potential financial reward situations. I've been tempted myself to pick up a romance novel, but ultimately I don't have a romance.
Have you ever been tempted to write one?
Yeah, more. I've been tempted to make money, but I don't actually have a romance story to tell. So there is like the appeal of like, I just plug in the details and then presto, money. But the details are still a lot of work.
Yeah.
And so for me anyway, I do need to care about the story I'm telling.
Right.
And I think, successful romance novelists, formula or no, also care about writing romance novels.
Yeah.
Hack screenwriters probably still think their screenwriter is something they care about.
Yeah.
Screenplay is something they care about.
When I was a kid, it was Spider-Man was the dream job. If I could just get a job drawing Spider-Man, like all my dreams would ever come true. Until I started to know people that worked in the business that had drawn Spider-Man or written Spider-Man, and it didn't solve all their problems, and it was a hell of a lot of work. When you look at it, you draw a couple of pages, and you're just like, I really don't want to draw Spider-Man again. And I got 20 more pages of drawing Spider-Man.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is, like, everybody thinks I could do that, whether it's drawing Spider-Man or writing a novel or writing a movie. I could do that. But the actual sitting down and doing it part is the hard part, and that is the accomplishment.
Yeah.
And that's even like going from, we've been talking for months about who these characters are, what we want their story arc to be, what their emotional journey is, and then like to go episode by episode. Last night we were breaking 2 episodes that what made them work is like remixing plot from one into plot from the other, and vice versa, of like, because this episode is David realizes he needs more friends than just his girlfriend. Okay, but how does that actually happen? Well, he goes to lunch with this guy and doesn't have a good time, and then he goes and his girlfriend has something else to do, and so he will show him being bored, and then he meets this, like all these actual concrete details. It's easier to come up with David feels like he needs more friends. But like, how do you show that then? And that's the part of like,
you have to actually care about the character that you built up.
Yeah.
Like, I wonder if sometimes.
And then our issue last night was, what is Patrice the girlfriend doing? Oh, she's doing this stuff from this episode. Now it's in this episode.
Yeah, you have to like shift all these things. Like if you're like looking at a forest and where things are like covering up other, like if you're trying to look at a tree at a forest, but there's like 3 other trees in the way.
Yeah.
Part of making a theatrical presentation is you've got to move those trees over. Like,
right.
But that's not how the forest is. Like.
Yeah, then move the camera.
Yeah,
that's not a good frame.
I was listening to somebody. I think it was on Blank Check. They were talking about what's Christopher Nolan, and he tends to. Well, I guess the most famous are Batman and the Bane character. Where all the characters are. And it just kind of comes out with like, well, I can't understand what they're saying, so I don't really know what's going on. And his, not excuse, but his attempt at doing that is like what we've talked about is like sometimes you just can't hear what's going on in a room, like Robert Altman or something like that. There's stuff happening all over the place.
But Altman always had such a purpose to the dialogue you couldn't hear as much as the dialogue you could hear.
Yeah, and it was a dance, whereas I think the Christopher Nolan is that like sometimes there's noise that's happening if buildings are shifting in Inception or something like that.
Yeah.
Where I can't hear what's going on, or you're like.
We also have a case where I think technology is eclipsing what the average consumer has in their home.
When the Lord of the Rings movies first came out, and it was in like Super 9D or something, like everyone watched it and got sick.
Yeah, or even like Game of Thrones, like that episode that everybody complained was just black.
Yeah, it's just too dark.
That the cinematographer, his response was like, get a better TV.
Yeah.
It's so good if you can see it right. Like,
lucky I have a TV.
You didn't do it right if not everybody can see it right now.
Yeah, you have to be. Because I wonder, like, when there's things like going back to characters, like I think about like what are the characters like that don't, like I can't ever get into Harry Potter, and I know these characters mean a lot to people,
right?
And that's why I'm not all that interested in shitting on Harry Potter. Like it seems like a story that is just not for me. Same thing with Game of Thrones. Like these are characters that mean a lot to people.
Yeah.
And I don't get what that is. But I don't think it's because the writer was just lazy and didn't bother writing characters. Like I'm not interested in the characters that they're writing.
Well, and I would say in the case of Harry Potter, they're very archetypal, and it is like it's a Messiah's journey, and the Messiah character Harry is left, I think, a little bit blank for you to project yourself onto him, because his best friend and his best girlfriend.
Right, it's the Luke Skywalker thing of just give me Mr. Bland.
The actual central figure is kind of bland, but your personality, you got your Joker over here and your Priss over here. Usually that breaks down around boring gender lines. That the boy is the Joker and the girl is the stickler.
Yeah.
Harry Potter is no exception there, but that the juicy character bits come in from the side because. I think especially in children's fiction, but maybe all airport fiction too, is they kind of want you as the reader to be able to project yourself onto it.
Which is one of the magic things of going back to Spider-Man that Stan Lee had, is that the mask means that it could be anybody, and that way the fact that he's a jokester and he's a good guy, but he's a wise ass. Like you could figure, like I feel like I was always the funniest. Like you probably weren't the funniest, but at least like it's under a mask. It could have been you.
Yeah, yeah.